Welcome. Let's talk about planning for a substitute. I've got 5 tips to help you with planning for a substitute effectively and efficiently, and we're going to talk about them today. The first tip is the more information, the better. The second tip is the simpler activities, the better. 3, work smarter, not harder. 4, prepare your students. And 5, take subnotes with a grain of salt. So let's dive in. The more information that you can give a substitute, the better. They are walking into a class where they don't know any of the routines, any of the expectations, any of the students. And so it's better to leave more information than less. In my substitute binder that I keep in my sub tub, which is right to the side of my desk, all my teammates know where it is, so if I'm out, they can pull from there. The sub binder has information about dismissal routines and how students are getting home, and different routines throughout the day, like getting lunch and how that works, and what to do if there's a fire drill, things like that. It also has a list of students, and I put it in like a little envelope in the side of the binder where I put a little more information for the substitute teacher about the students in the room. So who might be ELL and what language they might speak, or like who would be a really good helper for them, or who is maybe on a behavior plan and what the protocol would be. I don't write about every student, just the major things that I think that a substitute walking into my room should know. The second tip I have is to leave simple, easy, and engaging activities. Don't overdo it. Don't leave activities that you really care about getting done a certain way, because they won't. They won't get done the way you want. Don't leave activities that are really important and you care about them a lot, because they might not get done. Don't leave activities that, don't leave lessons that you're like for teaching, because they might not teach it the right way. Remember that substitutes, they don't have to be trained teachers. They might not have the background in teaching. And so you can't really expect them to teach, for example, multiplication the way they're supposed to. So, and I, as a substitute teacher formerly, I have had that happen to me, and it said, go to this page in this book and teach this lesson. And I was a trained teacher, but I hadn't ever taught yet, except for substituting. And so I think I did okay, but I don't know. So I've also known substitutes that take your plan and just chuck it. They just do what works for them to get through the day. And honestly, I'm okay with that. If my kids are happy and safe, I don't really care what they're doing. I don't. Sometimes I don't even look at the like worksheets that I leave for them to do, because they're not things that I care about. They're not things that I care that they're done well, or that I'm using for assessment, because I don't know what kind of help they got or support or what kind of instruction. So it's not good information for me as a teacher. I don't tend to leave stations for my class, even though that's a routine we do every day. I just want to keep it easier for the substitutes, and that can be a lot to manage, and the supplies. So I leave whole class activities for the substitute to lead. So in math, I always leave bingo games. Super easy to do. I do it based on the unit or the skill they're working on as a class. The kids know the routine, because every time I'm out, there's a bingo game. And so they know the routine. It's just a different bingo game because it's based on a different skill. For reading, I have them do a read aloud, and then they go off and read. And I'll leave in the sub plan, more information the better, sit with this table or sit with these students and have them read to you. For writing, I have them do a read aloud, and then they go off and write. So I keep it very simple. And I keep it as close to the normal routine as possible. But like I said, I don't do stations. I'll be whole class activities. Work smarter, not harder. So using this tip that I'm about to tell you, I have gone from having my lesson plans for substitutes take hours to 10 minutes. And I'm like mad about all the times that I've spent hours on substitute plans when it didn't have to be that hard. I make emergency subplans for the start of the year every year. At this point, I just tweak them a little bit year from year. But at the beginning of the year, I write my sub plans, or I tweak my sub plans to have the updated snack times and the schedule with the specials and, whatever. And that way, when if I'm out on a Tuesday, I copy the document and I take out the Tuesday part and I just tweak the few things that need to be tweaked, right? Which is barely anything. For math, I say, read the math read aloud and then play the math bingo game with the kids. I change the bingo game, but I don't need to change that in my plans. I just pull out the bingo game, put it on my desk, slap a Post-it on it that says math, and that's it. Right? For writing, I say read aloud, and then have them go off and write in their writer's notebook. I take the writing book that matches the unit we're in, put it on the desk, slap a Post-it on it that says writing. That's it. I'm not changing anything in my subplans. The only thing I tend to change is science or social studies because it kind of depends on the unit. And so it's hard to kind of make that generic, but I always have a backup if there ever was an emergency in my subtub and in my emergency plans. So work smarter, not harder. Make your lesson planning go from hours to 10 minutes. You will love this tip. Emergency subplans that you can tweak and tweak and tweak. Fourth tip is to prepare your students for your absence. So you don't necessarily have to tell them every time you're going to be out because you don't always know when you're going to be out. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and you're sick, or someone in your house is sick and you have to stay home. And so one of the things that I do about like a month into school, or a little less than that, I do a lesson with my kids on what a substitute is, or I call them a guest teacher in my room, and why we might have them. So I read Miss Nelson is Missing, and we talk about how sometimes teachers are not there at school. Remember, if you're in kindergarten, this could be your student's first experience with this, right? Even if they went to preschool, there were multiple teachers, that they had floater teachers, like they might not have realized really what it was to have a substitute teacher. So this could be their first experience. So sometimes teachers are sick, sometimes they have doctor's appointments, sometimes they are traveling and going on a trip, or they're going to like a meeting all day, but sometimes they are not here, and that's okay because there are guest teachers there to help us. I call them guest teachers because it's more a sign of respect and like on the same level as teachers. So that the kids know the expectations of listening to teacher directions are the same. So something I like to do. I heard it from somewhere and I really liked it. And so after we read the book and talk about why a teacher might be out, I have them think about how I say, well, the guest teacher that's coming, they might not know all of our routines and expectations. And so the day might go a little differently. And that's okay. We do need to be flexible and go with the flow and follow the guest teacher. But we also can help the guest teacher learn a little bit about our routines and expectations. And so I asked the kids, what would be really helpful for the guest teacher to know? What do you really want the guest teacher to know? And so they make a whole list and I divide it up. I say, okay, you take that idea, you take that idea, and it's totally child-led. If there's a gap missing, like, oh, I noticed no one mentioned dismissal. Do you think that will be important? Then that kind of help with that. But really it's just child-led, and I just make sure that everyone's doing a different part of the day. And they draw about what they're going to say and they dictate it or they write it, what they want the guest teacher to know about that part of the day, right? Like at dismissal, we pack up and sit on the rug for a story, whatever. We get our folders before we get our backpacks, whatever it is they want to say, they go with it. And then I put it together in this book that you can see here in order from arrival to dismissal. And this book has two benefits. The first is that it does help the guest teacher a little bit with knowing some of the routines and expectations of the classroom. But secondly, it helps the students remember that just because I'm not there, the routines and expectations are the same. And the guest teacher knows it. Like they can't get away with saying, no, that's not how we do that. We do it like this. Like, no, they can't get away with that because it's in the book, right? The guest teacher just read it to them. So every time I'm out, the guest teacher reads the guest teacher book. Unless, I'm out for a couple of days and it's the same guest teacher, then they don't need to read it. But I've heard from substitutes that they really like this book idea. They really found that helpful. And I've seen the difference that it's made for my students to have this book read to them when I'm out. So if you want to do it yourself, you can just use lined paper, but you also can go to this blog post and there's a free template if you want to use it. So those are my 5 tips for preparing for a substitute, and it will make your life so much easier. And you might actually use your sick days and your personal days. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be nice? Right? I know we never take sick days because it's going to take so long to get ready for a substitute. Well, I went from going hours to taking minutes, right? Do I take all my sick days? No, I don't. And I should take more. But this makes it super easy to be out, right? Saying no is something that doesn't come easy to me. But I should say yes to taking care of myself more. But in the meantime, it's really easy when I am out to use these tips to help. So I hope you liked those tips. And if you want to see more, kindergartencafe.org has it all. All right, we'll see you in the next video.